want to be able to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because we started to discuss also this OIDC and some way to grant permissions for the users to be in a certain group and so on. And together with this feature, it kind of correlates in terms of if you don't care really about security, you just want to, separate it in them spaces and control like visibility, what you can see from other agents and things like that. Maybe it will be resolved on the RBAC level already. And
but that's the thing is, Dimitro, it's like right now there is no solve. Like RBAC is the thing that we're trying to solve, right? Like regardless of access is not the problem here. The problem here is just RBAC, right? Like so for example, right now, again, because there are secrets, we cannot share these things. And so we need to figure out a way to be able to share them, because without, like, I think that we need to separate the idea of network access from RBAC. This problem is entirely about RBAC. It has nothing to do with network access, right? So it's like, I agree that we need to solve network access, but I'm a little worried that if we focus too much on network access in this particular situation, like we'll get bogged down. And again, I think like the answer might be, let's like just take secrets completely out of the remote MCP server, but I don't think that really solves the problem either, because you still, like, again, you still don't necessarily want everything shared by default. So I don't know. I understand that we're trying to solve the network problem, but I think let's for me, this is solely about RBAC and namespace tenancy.
Okay.
And I'm a bit confused by the introduction of RBAC into this, but yeah, okay.
Well, no, RBAC like Kubernetes RBAC, right, Brian? Like if you, like if someone, let's say people have access to different namespaces, right? That was the original intention here. It's like if Team A has access to namespace A and Team B has access to namespace B, Team A shouldn't be able to use the secrets in namespace B, basically.
Unless namespace B grant them access to do that.
Exactly. So,
which is what I've implemented in that way.
So that's why I'm saying this is all about Kubernetes RBAC. Like this has nothing to do with like whether or not on the network level you can access the server, right? That's an entirely separate concern. And I don't think we should get bogged down in that in this API. Like we have API, like there are, it's the same thing with like again, like with other products, right? It's like I think we'd be overloading Kagent as a concept to try and like add network security into the API.
So just a comment on the network security, because I'm a bit confused here, and maybe, you can help me understand. I don't quite get where that even comes into this. So one, this is only about the remote MCP server CRD. So, there's no service discovery in terms of services or MCP server CRDs that are involved in this PR. And so the remote MCP server, all the configuration is a URL. So that URL, there's nothing that Kubernetes RBAC is doing in any way to prevent that URL from being accessible. I mean, that's outside of anything related to this work. Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? I'm configuring it with a URL to mymcpserver.com or .service.cluster.local. And so, right now, if I want to use that same MCP server, I'm going to have to create a remote MCP server in namespace 1 and a remote MCP server in namespace 2, both pointing to the same URL. And Kagent's now going to reconcile those, and it's also going to then issue these list tool commands constantly against that server, needlessly at the end of the day. So network's there, it's there. It's just a URL,
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I think later, Dimitro, for example, right, like at the end, like later, maybe we can have, for example, like an integration with Agent Gateway or something like that, that you can point to an MCP server and say, like, I want to secure this MCP server, right?
Yes,
but
yes.
But I think that's entirely separate.
Yeah, that's not part of the scope. Yes, we're not discussing that. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Oh, I was just commenting because when you started to explain this relation between, like many to many, or I don't know, agent to tools, tools to agent, give permissions one to another, it seems like we have too much ceremony, and then at the end we still have everything open, everything just available. So maybe we can have much simpler mechanism for that. And
well, just to go back to that, why do you say that everything is open at the moment? Because it's not.
the same thing as you said about URL, right? So you have
okay.
yeah, so your URL is still accessible, so we are not like solving any problem of how it's really like. Anyway, look, I will also look more in detail to your PR. Unfortunately, I haven't reviewed it thoroughly,
That's cool.
in deep.
That's
So
nice.
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
We
So,
just
yeah, I
wanted to
think-
understand like the use case and what you are trying to build. And I have some additional question before we finish.
Go for it.
Have you considered, or do you have a deployment where you have like a blue-green or something, where you have 2K agents and you actually define this watch namespaces as an array of list of namespaces which you want to control? For example, K agent and some additional namespaces, and then K agent staging or something like this, K agent dev. Like basically on the same cluster, you have more than one deployment.
He's not trying to lock anything down.
No.
Like that's,
If this permissions and everything will work with these multiple deployments, fine. If we don't have anything missing, I'm just.
I mean, so the lookup right now, the owner of the resource in terms of the agent or the tool needs to grant access to whichever set of namespaces they want. And that's like all or same or a selector or something like that. I haven't got a situation where I deploy Kagent twice to the same cluster. And I'm just trying to think through how that would look, but I'd have to look at the code to try and figure it out. But I don't think so, because the internal code is looking at database. I don't know how watch namespaces works actually. I only run one and I watch all namespaces.
It's just like limiting scope. Instead of doing all cluster resources, you have
look, I haven't.
I think the watchers
at the moment, but
so the watchers should just be limited, basically. Like the watchers are set up to cache and look at specific namespaces, and so we would have to modify RBAC for that as well. I don't think we do that today, but the caches get set up so when you do a get call, if it's not in a namespace that you have access to, it just won't be there.
Yeah, I suspect there may be more to it than that, but I'm going to say that's going to be an issue today, as it is with watch namespaces.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, we do a lookup, a get on the remote agent to say, does this agent grant permission? Can I reconcile this tool and reconcile this agent to say yes, you have permission or not? And that certainly I haven't implemented a limitation on watch namespaces. So that's, Dimitri, if you comment on the PR there, I'll definitely look at that to ensure that the lookup there is then limited by the namespaces so that you can't refer to a namespace outside of what the current controller is set up to watch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a better solution there, Brian, to be honest, like maybe this is a follow-up, but I think when we set up watch namespaces, we should probably have RBAC set up that mirrors it, right? So like I don't know, maybe this is, but like instead of creating a cluster role, you create like, I don't know, but maybe that's overkill.
No, it's actually much more secure, because current cluster role, it's sometimes in some environments too much.
Yeah,
like especially we have some environments with like OpenShift and so on, which are more restricted, and then each team owns only particular namespaces, and actually they should not cross, right? They have like a strong airbag and everything. So for me, the model with watch namespaces and airbag is much more kind of protected and isolated. But it's not for everyone. Some people prefer simple cluster and don't care.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's okay. That's why I'm just bringing this another perspective just to validate against it to see, okay, we are good. And especially if you do like a blue-green deployment or canary, when you want to have maybe 2 namespaces and shift traffic between and things like that, you need to have like 2 instances deployed, right? It's not uncommon. Anyway,
yeah. No, please add a comment on that one, and I will definitely look at that because it wasn't something I considered for sure.
Sounds like we're in agreement about, okay, so I'll put this on the notes. So Brian to follow up about multiple control planes, and then Dimitro to review PR. All right, so it sounds like we're in a good spot there. We have 2 things to talk about, so if anyone has anything else, we can definitely keep going. But if not, I'd like to move on to the next thing. That's all right. Ryan, Dimitro, anyone else?
Next one.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'll listen in a little bit, but I'm going to have to drop in a couple minutes anyway. So
that's all right, Brian. Thanks for joining. I know it's late, and thanks for the work. The HA thing. I already shouted you out last time, but like huge thanks on
really?
that. It got released. Like, yeah, it was always one of those things where I said, "Oh, like we have this stuff to do it," but you brought it over the line, and so I really appreciate that.
Nice, thanks. Yeah.
So cool. All righty. Who's next? All right, Yuval. Do you want to talk about your thing?
Yes, I saw the OIDC proposal, I believe from Colin. I wanted to understand the use case a bit because OIDC is not easy to implement, and I was hoping to understand the use case better and see if we can come up with maybe a simpler solution that leverages an existing OAuth proxy. Kind of like how Kubernetes does it, where you have a trusted proxy that tells it the identity of the users, and then Kubernetes just trusts it, and then it takes away, all the refresh token, this flow, that flow. I don't even, basically, I don't want to maintain OAuth if I don't have to. So that's kind of my 2 cents here. I was hoping that we could do something like front Kagent with OAuth proxy, and instead of doing the whole OIDC flow, just do validate the jot or trust the header from the proxy and do MTLS between them, something like that. So hoping to chat about it, see if that resonates with other people.
And just to follow up on what you've all said, I think, like me and him briefly discussed this, and I don't think it should change fundamentally the design at all. Yeah, like I think 90% remains the same, especially like I told him, and I believe this. It's like no matter what, like we should make this really easy from the Helm chart, right? So it's like from the user's perspective, it shouldn't make much of a difference. But I agree that this is very well known workflow, and I think it would be nice to rely on a trusted implementation rather than to have to maintain it ourselves if we can. Colin, Josh, y'all are the stakeholders here.
Hey, sorry, I'm sick today, so I'm just kind of standing in. Yeah. So what would where is the OAuth proxy getting its credentials? Is it the like the same mechanism you'd auth with kubectl, or like what does that look like?
I mean, it depends on which proxy you use. Different proxies do it differently.
By the way, it's not only OAuth proxy, right? It can be also like EST implementation or Glue or something, right?
Exactly. I don't really care which proxy it is. I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. So I think basically maybe like just so we're all on the same page, it's like Kagent, right? Like, and then there's the DB.
While you're doing this, I'll just say the parallels for me is like how Kubernetes does it, that you can tell it, if you get these headers from a trusted proxy, then you can trust them, right? So Kubernetes itself doesn't have a lot of auth options. And even the OIDC that it does have, it's not really OIDC. It's fancy JOT validation. And so I would not to take on this complexity of, oh, now we need to store the tokens in the database and think about security and when to refresh and all this stuff.
Right. So now basically in this, what, Colin, basically what you're talking about is like the, sends, the in the proposal today, right? Kagent has like an OIDC server inside of it.
Endpoint, right?
Yeah, an OIDC and endpoint, right? It manages token refresh, it does the redirects, all that stuff. So I think what Yuval is recommending instead is basically we have a well-known OIDC implementation in the middle here.
OAuth 2 proxy.
Right. It doesn't matter what it is. Let's call it OAuth 2 proxy. And basically, so this thing would essentially hook up to your, your key cloak or whatever it is. Let's see if I have a good icon.
And actually, Marcin already did this implementation, so there was a repository
Yep.
with the example.
Yep. And so we could just bring that into the Helm chart. Yeah, I don't have a good, but anyway, okay, let's put this over here. So
And then I think the main missing piece is that to make sure that Kagent doesn't accept connections that are not coming from the proxy, but that's relatively
exactly. So then, you have this, and so this let's say is your OIDC server, right? Whatever, it's like keycloak, Dex, etc. And now the only thing being passed to Kagent is the the validated, or not the validated, sorry, the JOT, right? And then
validated.
Kagent reaches here to validate.
I mean, the JOT can also be validated as well.
Sure, whatever. But yeah, I mean, but Kagent still should check the claims. I mean,
the JOT we will parse and we will extract information from it, right?
Yes.
The question actually is there anything that we would require from the OIDC server in any scenario?
The thing you need access to be able to anytime
like
you parse
for example, log out from all your applications or stuff like this. We don't really care, right? And yeah, anyway,
That's what they should do.
So yeah, anyway, so I mean, we don't have to validate the JOT from Kagent. I think it's probably more secure.
There's two options. Either the proxy passes in the JOT and then we can validate it, and then we can presumably even not trust the proxy.
Yeah.
Option 2 is that we trust the proxy and the proxy parses the JOT and give it to us. Kubernetes, I think, does it with X user, X group, X whatever headers. That these headers are only trusted if they come from a trusted proxy.
Yeah.
And then if those headers arrive, that's what you use.
Yeah. I see it both ways.
So would we deploy the OAuth 2 proxy like from the Helm chart? It would spin up another deployment and then configure the service to connect there rather than straight to Kagent?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we could implement on the back end still all the same like RBAC controls afterwards because the OAuth 2 proxy would be passing the groups and
right.
Yeah, so the
Exactly.
proxy does the auth n and we'll still do the auth z.
That's a good way to.
I think I like this better. It definitely reduces complexity within Kagent. And there's nothing that I can think of that's specific for Kagent in this auth flow that needs to be implemented, custom to Kagent, outside of a common implementation. of OAuth 2. So I think this does make sense, and it does reduce that complexity within Kagent.
And it actually keeps open this decision which OAuth proxy to use, because in some cases it can be implemented by like service mesh. It could be also this OAuth 2 when you don't use any service mesh, and it's quite flexible.
As I said, though, I do think we should have a default implementation from the help chart where it'll deploy.
Yeah, sure. It will be
yes.
much easier. It's time to have kind of a simple login with multi-user, because it's a bit of like many people asking that where is my user, and you don't want to explain every time how to build it from scratch.
Yeah. Let me see if Martin. Do you remember what his GitHub name was? What is it? Anyway,
yeah,
I'll find it at some point. He did. I'll look for it. I don't know, Dimitri, if you remember where the heck it is.
I think it was mentioned also on the comments on that feature. No.
Yeah, it's definitely somewhere.
Marcin Kubrick, I think he was. MARCINKUBRIC or something like that.
Yes, exactly his name. Anyway.
I'm going to drop now, but I'm totally in favor of the proxy. Like, we don't want to do OAuth in the agent itself, or within Kagent itself, because we're going to end up needing it both on the controller API as well as then on the UI, as well as, so you need it in multiple places anyway, which means it's going to be a separate component anyway, so you might as well use one that's industry standard or well adopted, whatever you want to call it.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
By the way, Dex also can work as a proxy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, Dex is another one. Yeah. I would personally use Dex. I haven't used OAuth 2 proxy, but both I'm sure are good.
Josh found it. There you go. There's a closed PR. Oh, standalone. He has a repo. There we go.
Yeah, repo, yeah.
Where's that chat?
Yeah, I think this makes sense. Yeah, it probably would help us move faster too to get to the RBAC stuff. So,
yeah, which I think is that is the core here, right? Like that's the thing. So
right.
Wow. All right. Well, it sounds like we're all in agreement. That's awesome. All righty.
Ethan, do you remember there was this question if we want to group agent in some way with some projects on top of something, like to make UI less loaded?
What do you mean less loaded?
Like from the start page, we have sometimes many agents, and if we can group them by some kind of a projects.
Oh, to have like I think that should be namespaces. And I think the UI maybe should have an ability to group by namespaces where you can toggle and shut them, close them and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Like,
I mean, I'm not against this idea. I'm still trying to think. Yeah, you're saying, okay, so let's say if we have a list of namespaces that Kagent is aware of, right?
Yeah.
Like watch namespaces. Mm-hmm. We can actually scan all of them and then present in UI as a different kind of groups. And then if we apply RBAC, we can show to some users their namespaces and not the others.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, sure.
All right. So it sounds like that's a UI change. So I'll make an issue for that. Yeah. Okay. I'll make it. I think that sounds good to me. Cool. Anyone else? Anything you want to chat about? Cool. Well, Colin, I hope you feel better. Take some time. Take some Tylenol. Ginger. What does my coworker always say? It says ginger, turmeric, a couple of things. Lemon and honey, and boil it.
Y'all sound like my wife.
I don't think it actually works, but it certainly, whatever. Placebo is real. All right. Cool. Well, if we don't have anything else,
I do have a question on the last one with Brian about the cross namespace access.
Yeah.
So right now, if you look in the UI, the tools are available in the UI for across namespaces.
Yep.
Like you can add them, but you're saying that doesn't actually in the actual components. It doesn't load things properly into say my
it'll fail. If you
it'll
try to
fail.
do it,
Okay.
it'll fail.
Okay, because it doesn't load those
The
the
API just
information
doesn't
from
support it. Like the API only has a name field. It doesn't have a namespace field.
yeah. Okay. So then on that it was suggested that that maybe you just create multiple remote MCPs in each namespace that you want to access
Well, he was saying he really
with a
doesn't.
secret. Yeah, right. What was the reason why you don't want to do that?
Well, because then you end up getting bloat, and also like our system does discovery, so you have basically double the list calls to the MCP server, right?
So,
You end up with,
remote MCP will kind of be scanned every 5, 15, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds. And if we will have like more of them, right? So it will get scanned too often.
yeah.
Right, maybe that's the part that needs to be fixed. If you have multiple of the same remote MCP, because maybe you want a remote MCP with different authentication across different namespaces, rather than the agent providing the authentication.
But then if you want different authentication, you create a different object. If you want the same authentication, you should be able to share the object, I feel like. Right? It's like, no?
Yeah, but right, that makes sense. But I'm saying if you could solve both of those things, if you want multiple of just reducing the amount of calls, one call per, I don't know, maybe it'd be tied to a URL. I don't really know. So you're not doing multiple calls. Then you could allow the possibility of having one or multiple. I'm just thinking in our case, I think we'd want different authentication probably per namespace, per, client that wants
If it's
to
per
access
client,
the
then but if you want per client, then I still think if it's per client, then it's right, you're passing through the token. I don't know. Fundamentally, people keep asking us to be able to share resources across namespaces. I think we need to allow that. Like saying to everyone that they need to create a copy of every resource in every namespace seems pretty crazy, right? That would be like in Kubernetes if you had to share your services across every
Yeah.
namespace.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
All righty.
And yeah, maybe that's a different issue of being able to reduce the amount of calls per remote MCP. Maybe if you don't want to have the client provide authentication. But anyways, that's a separate issue.
But for your case, I mean, I also think you should only need one again, because you're right. That at the end of the day, for your implementation, the client's ID or whatever will end up going all the way through. And so if you have agents owned by different people, you probably in only one MCP server, right? Maybe you have an MCP namespace, and you're like, oh, agents that are created in these namespaces have access to this MCP server, or otherwise you don't, right? And then basically people can't create agents that use that MCP server, or if they do, it won't have the proper authentication and it'll fail, right? Or something like that.
What about making the repo MCP a cluster resource instead of a namespace resource? Then that reduces the need to share.
But you still want to be able, I think teams can't own remote MCP servers. Like that solves, like what if, I think that solves it in your, like, let's say you have global ones, but what if teams have their own? I don't think there's any reason to limit it like that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think the trick is there might be multiple topologies by different teams depending on what you're building.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're building it like multi-tenant service for external. Sometimes be one team. Sometimes something else with a strong separation or with just logically. I don't know. It's could be multiple solutions. So the best if we keep things in the way that we can reconstruct different topology and all of them will work, which might require us to have several test examples how to do it with some kind of end-to-end.
Yep, totally agree. Alrighty.
Yeah, but indeed, like this is like the question which is comes up every week, with all the things together. Like if you have, let's say, agent gateway, if you have the agent registry, and if you want everything to be like interconnected, automatically discovered, so it's pretty difficult, right? So it's not there yet.
Yeah.
And like we are drawing sometimes the simple example, but the production like example will look 10 times more complex.
Agreed. We're getting there, software development still takes time. Even with AI, look, we're trying not to create too much AI slop here. So
By the way, for A2A, right? I've seen there was a separation. So A2A was moved to some separate class, right? Or something like this. Are we actually planning to have this handler in the way that it can go via agent gateway or something? So the communication between agents will go through agent gateway?
So that could happen today. Oh, a proxy URL. Actually, we are going to add that. Actually, that is something we're about to add.
I've seen some code which is already like started, right? So it's like
No, so that was separate, but we are going to add a proxy URL so that you can throw all of your tool calls and all of your agent calls through a proxy. Yeah.
Because we have on our like a target design which we currently planning. This is actually should go through the agent gateway, everything. So even if you have like a multiple agents talking to each other and tools and everything, so it goes via this agent gateway.
Yep. Yeah, we just talked about that like 2 days ago, and we're yeah.
Okay. No, that's good because this is like aligns with what expectations and other things. Yeah.
For sure.
Because as soon as we will have it in the picture, I think many things will be solved and pushed to that layer. So you can say, okay, this is policy or this is other thing, and we will automatically get a lot of different good things in observability and stuff like that. Yeah.
The work that Brian did to split the watcher, the reason that was important is just that he needed to split out the controller from the server. Like the fact that there's an A2A server in there is like, it's really just it's kind of a demo, right? So it's easier to use. But the reason he had to do that is that the controller needs leader election, but the server doesn't. So because he was doing the HA stuff, and so they have to be separate watchers. That's it. It wasn't related to proxying. So
I am.
Also, one thing I will say I am going to add is if you look at 1160, this is something that we've gotten a lot of requests for. So I'm hopefully going to be able to add this soon. But basically exposing agents as MCP servers.
Yeah. This is this is probably what everyone is asking after they see introduction to the Kagent.
I know.
And
did you watch it? The video, whatever.
Which one? Which one?
Anyway, doesn't matter. So this this is also really, really high on our list because we know that a lot of people are using, for example, a lot of people are using Claude Code. Like that is like, we know that everyone is using Claude Code basically. And so we want to be able to expose these stuff very easily. So yeah,
that's cool. Great.
And also the changes that Brian.
When do you think this MCP will be in?
Oh, that I couldn't tell you. It depends.
Like roughly like months or less?
Depends. Yeah. Again, it depends if someone has time to. If someone
Okay.
else has time to pick it up, or if someone internally has time to pick it up, I can't say for certain.
Okay.
But it is very high on our list. So
Yeah, but by the way, I'm taking like vacation soon and we'll have some spare time. So I will look a bit more on open source part because I was a little bit behind. Yeah.
I am too. Trust me. There's a lot of there's a lot of stuff going into the holiday, but hopefully we all have some vacation coming up. We can relax a little bit.
Yeah, it's currently, yeah. Cool.
Alrighty. Well, we're at time. So thanks everyone for the help. Excited to see all this work going in. Excited about the OAuth stuff. Yeah, keep me posted, and we'll talk to you all on Tuesday.
Thank
Bye.
you all. Bye.
Have a good one.